Hello, welcome to Look Into the Glass. Today we have Nat Johnson. We're going to be
Hello.
talking brain injuries and the wonderful things that happen and how to go about healing them in different manners because there's a whole bunch of different ways and a whole bunch of different things. Nat here is pretty much an expert and a person that has had a brain injury himself. So, Nat, take it off.
Hello. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. My story starts in 2016. I got a severe brain injury. I was hiking with my kids at Point Loma Tide Pools here in San Diego, and I slipped and landed the back of my head on a slab of solid rock. I hit so hard my brain rebounded, hit the top of my skull, and I twisted the part here above my eyes. Brutal pain. I have no words to describe it.
Yeah.
If you've ever been zapped by electricity and felt that intense, like pins and needles type feeling, that's what was going on in my head. And for the next few years, I was so sensitive to light and sound, I couldn't even be in a room with the lights on. It was just too painful. I had a room in my house that I playfully nicknamed it my dungeon. I had black hefty bags taped over the windows, and spent a lot of time alone in there. And in prison, they call this solitary confinement. It was definitely not an easy experience. I spent that time, really researching, every medical study out there, every harebrained treatment that's available, and I came up with about a 3-page list of all the remedies that actually helped me. There are actually a lot of them out there that my neuros didn't tell me about. I'll get to that in a minute. But if anybody's listening to this and you want a free copy of this, I also gave a presentation to the San Diego Brain Injury Foundation. Going through the list and explaining everything. I have that on video still. Anybody who wants it, no charge. Just let me know. It's a link on my Google Drive. I'll just send to you. But I compiled that list over several years. I went through 4 neurologists. The first one told me there's nothing I can do for you, and then tries to schedule me for another follow-up appointment. I'm like, why would I go to you if there's nothing you could do for? I didn't say that out loud, but
No, I
I just
understand. I do understand. I went through a lot of different, I can't do anything with you. Oh,
yeah.
it's just trauma, this and that. I went through a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I on to neuro number 2, who he gave me a pill that actually made me worse, and I called him, and he gave me another one, took a little bit of the sting away, and I'm like, okay, this I can actually look at my computer screen for a few minutes now, so I was able to start googling brain injury, how do you heal these freaking things, and so but I asked him, on a follow up visit, it's like, all right, we've got the pain somewhat subsided. Can you help me with my sleep? Because I was going through these things where, if the pain made it really tough to sleep, which made the pain worse, which, is just these brutal downward cycles. And he said, no, there's, nothing I can give you. And so on to neuro number 3. Right away, she told me, oh, yeah, let me give you amitriptyline. And it worked. Right away, I was getting, 7 hours of sleep, which, wasn't ideal, but it was enough. And so I'm beyond grateful to my doctors. I would not be where I am without them. The only reason I tell that story is how many people would have stopped with that first one.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's,
many,
yeah.
most.
And if you're dealing with, a severe brain injury or really any kind of a health challenge, sitting in that dark room, I did something that you're going to have to do too. I made a decision that I was going to make it out of there and I was going to live my life again. And the word decision comes from the Latin root de, which means from, and kaidir, which means to cut. When you make a true decision, you cut off any other possibility. I had no clue what that journey was going to look like sitting in that room, but I knew I needed to decide. And when something didn't work, all right, what's next? What you don't know the answer, who does? You know what I mean? That's the approach you got to take. And around the time that I gave the presentation to the foundation there, it hit me that on the tiny topic of healing a brain injury, I knew more than my neurologist did, which terrified me because that's I didn't know how to heal
Right.
myself, and so I realized medical science was not going to get me where I wanted to go, and so despite being a lifelong skeptic, I started looking around for what else is out there, and I started getting into energy medicine and healing and things like that. Lucky for me, I live in California, so I had a lot to choose from. And
Yeah.
I one of the first things I tried was called Reiki, and I told you I had that pins and needles type feeling in my head before. The best description I can give is she took those pins and needles and kind of made them fly in formation, if that makes sense. And the sting just went away, and I was like, "Whoa! I have no idea what you're doing, but please don't stop." And so, it
How soon was that after that you hit in your head? Was she able to do that?
ooh, this
Out of
was I
curiosity,
spent a
like how
couple
long had
years.
it been?
Yeah, I spent a couple years doing the medical route, really trying everything. Because again, I was a skeptic. I was shut off to that stuff until it's
Hmm.
like I have no other option. I just got to roll the dice and see if this stuff works. I
Yes.
was playing stunt pilot with my brain, just seeing what's out there. I was seriously going to Groupon and thinking, all right, if it's a scam, at least I'm not out much money. You know what I mean? It's trying everything out there, but Reiki
It is a
worked.
desperate search. It is
Yeah,
an absolute
absolutely.
desperate
Yeah.
search.
Yeah, it was absolutely out of desperation. And, when
Mhm.
you're in that mode, I didn't care what it was. If you told me stand on my head and, cluck like a chicken, I would have done it. But, you know, I, I spent several days with her, learned, Reiki, how to do it on myself so I could do, daily treatments on myself, which was a good thing because I couldn't afford any more sessions. I was in about $30,000 to my brain, healing my brain, and I was on disability and all that. It was, not a good spot. But over the next couple of years, I got into pranic healing, qigong, Silva holistic faith healing, and a bunch of others. And anything that really made a difference for me, I tried to jump in and master it, and did a huge amount of healing during this time. Just made a lot of strides, but I just could not shake that light and sound sensitivity. It was just too painful to go out and do stuff. And so at this point, I'm thinking, do I have permanent damage? And so I start looking around again, and I found a special type of brain scan. MRIs look at the tissue, which doesn't really tell you much for a brain injury unless you've got like some really serious damage. I found Dr. Daniel Amen. Not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's up in Orange County, famous in these circles. But he does what's called a SPECT scan, which actually maps the electrical activity in the brain. An MRI, doesn't show
That's
much
what it
in a
usually
lot of
does.
cases, but a SPECT scan for like Alzheimer's or things like that, it looks like they've got holes in their brain just because there are areas where there's no activity. And so I went up there and I got my scan. And long story short, my brain was okay, but areas that were supposed to be dark were lit up like a fireworks show. And I was diagnosed with PTSD that day. I'd had it since I was a little guy and never even realized it. My thinking before that moment was that's something soldiers get, right?
Hmm.
And so right away I knew what was going on. The name of the game when healing a brain injury is to bring your brain waves down and give your brain a chance to rest and repair itself. My PTSD was doing the opposite, keeping me in fight or flight and sabotaging the healing process basically. So at that point, I'd known I'd had severe anxiety issues for years, and depression, all that stuff, and I'd been to several talk therapists, little to no results. One of them was really good. Her niche was executives and stress and all that. But in my case, it was like a garden hose against the tide. It just wasn't going to do anything. Another one just wanted to drug me, which made it worse. And so I knew that wasn't the route for me. And lucky for me, I was familiar with Tony Robbins and NLP, and I'd seen my dad get hypnotized. NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. It's a cousin of hypnosis, but
We actually had somebody on here about that.
oh, cool, cool. But both are just ways to talk to the subconscious mind, and I dove into both of them, and I got quadruple certified, and hypnotherapy, NLP coach, and all that, and I peppered every single coach that I had, with the same question: How do you heal PTSD? And they all tried to help me, but none of them really had the answer. It wasn't out there, but so all right, got another journey to go on. So about 2.5 years, I studied through, the greats in both disciplines, hypnosis and NLP, and took a little bit from this guy, a little bit from this guy, and I put together a protocol that actually healed me. And about 6 months later, I actually healed the PTSD, or the brain injury. And since then, I help people who are dealing with that emotional baggage and the subconscious issues. By the time you hit 30 years old, up to 95% of your day-to-day behaviors are driven by your subconscious. If you think about the first time you drove a car, your hands were 10 and 2 and you were super focused on not hitting anything, right? You had to be. Fast forward a few years and you've got coffee in one hand, cell phone in the other, right? I'm kidding, please don't do that. But that shows the process. You've driven over and over again so many times your subconscious learned how to do it. We've probably, had the
It's literally
experience.
just going through the motions.
Yeah, yeah. Most of us have had the experience of driving and realizing we haven't even been paying attention. So what kept us from crashing, right? Your subconscious took over for you. Really cool process for driving, but when you teach it things like negative emotions and limiting beliefs and things like that, that's when you got a problem. That's when you need hypnosis and NLP to go in and rewrite those programs at the root. And that's what I help people with.
It's amazing.
Long-winded answer.
No,
No, it's
no,
amazing.
like I love enthusiasm, number one.
I do.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love your enthusiasm.
And when somebody
has your kind of enthusiasm, doesn't mean that means they're
is
honest.
onto something,
It
You're
means
you're
they're
cutting out a little bit. You're cutting out a little bit. Sorry.
is that better?
Oh, much better. Yeah.
okay. I was saying I love your enthusiasm because when I see somebody with that kind of enthusiasm, it means that you're onto something.
Hmm.
100%. It means that you've discovered things that other
People don't know about, and I just love hearing about all the different ways. I like energy healing. I like the natural way. I personally took the medication route, and I also was in the height of an addiction. And with my
Mm.
head injury, I had, because of my PTSD and my fear-based thinking, I had resorted to drugs to try to cover up the symptoms of my head
Numbing the
injury.
pain. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and it 100% put me addicted to meth for 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been clean for 560 days today,
Nice.
and now
Congratulations.
I'm actually off all seizure medications because I developed seizures from
Wow.
mine. I hit mine. It was funny. We were kind of smiling because you said out hiking. We were at Grand Canyon,
She hit hers 2 years prior to yours.
Oh,
2014.
wow.
2015.
Yeah, 2015. My
Yeah,
bad.
mine was one
2015.
March 24th of 2015 is when I hit my head. And
Wow.
mine was a metal pole though. Mine was the metal hand railing, the
Oh, yeah.
hollow, and it
Wow.
reverbed about 300 feet of this metal. I hit it so
Wow.
hard. Um, and when they say the little birds and that sting, and it's like a static, it was literally like a static in my head, and all I could do was just hold it. And I didn't have any insurance. I was not in a good place. And like, I had just gotten out of a 13-year abusive relationship that strained me financially in every which way, and emotionally, spiritually, you name it. And I was just starting to get me back. And then I hit my head.
Yeah.
And that unleashed, I would say, almost like a demon behavior out of me, like blackouts. I would literally just leave the building. I started having seizures immediately, and I was having the absent seizures, so it was a little bit harder, but I was having them for 20 minutes, and then I would come right back into the conversation that was happening 20 minutes ago. And
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on, and because of the confusion that I dealt with and all that, you understand, you're not all there. You're really
Right.
not, and
Yeah.
you don't even know how to explain how you're not all there.
Yeah.
And mine was so bad that they told me that if it hit any harder, I would have died. And they said,
Yeah. I heard the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, they said it. But I had waited 3 days to go to the hospital, and they said, by this time, there's not much we can do for you. So
Yeah.
it's just going to be bad. And I kept telling them, I was like, to me, I'm fine. To me, I'm fine. It took the doctor to look at me and said, to you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think. You don't need to listen to you right now. You need to listen to other people because you're not okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah. Every brain injury is different. It's like a fingerprint. I've worked with people from the foundation and all that. It's, completely, I've seen the range of, people who have a 10-second memory span. I was like in that Adam Sandler movie. I met that guy in real
Second
life.
Tom, that's my
Yeah.
nickname.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine is Mine is really weird. The memories are all in there, but it takes me a few minutes to access them. Somebody will ask,
Okay.
this happened, this happened, this. No, 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 no. And then 5 minutes later, it'll come to me. Oh yeah, the whole thing comes back. It was so weird, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's you get all these weird issues and sensations that you cannot explain to other people. I try to give analogies and things like that so people can kind of understand what I'm going through, but there is
I
nothing
think
at
even
all
if
like a
people
brain
don't
injury.
experience it, it's one of those
Yeah,
things if you haven't, you're not going to completely understand it. And even the people
yeah,
that do experience it don't completely understand it. And there's
right.
so much information out there that is not actually available.
Yeah, absolutely. I had gotten to the point I told you I realized I knew more than my neurologists on the tiny topic of healing a brain injury. There's way more neurology than that, but I knew more than they did because I geeked out on doing nothing but that for a couple of years straight. And so I'm going to their offices like, you get somebody in here first. After their CT scan, you get their freaking inflammation down, all everything nobody told me. And they were polite, but I don't think they wanted to hear it. But it's, yeah, there's so, as part of the reason why I did the document, all that is just putting together, what actually worked for me. Cause, not a lot of people are geeky like I am. So that's my superpower. I'm a nerd. And so I,
Hey, we all have our superpower, and your
yeah,
superpower is going to help many people.
And
yeah,
you're
that's,
taking
that's the
advantage
goal.
of that. You're going, okay, I'm going to give this to somebody to help them get through it because a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, yeah. I have the belief that God needed a nerd to solve both those problems, and so I did it to the best of my ability. But yeah, it's in my case, I don't want another one definitely, but it wound up being a huge gift because I never would have realized that I had PTSD until I got that brain scan. And I told you I got it when I was a little guy. Looking back, I realized how many ways I had shut myself down and just not, it. When you've got a severe anxiety like that, it is so hard to just go out and do simple stuff. You know what I mean? It's really going to the grocery store is exhausting. You know what I mean? And I went through a lifetime of that, not realizing what was happening to me. And so, again, definitely not a fun experience, but it unlocked me. I was able to figure out what was going on and actually go in and fix it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you did the Reiki healing, right?
Hmm.
The energy healing.
Hmm.
Um, Not a lot of people are very familiar with energy healing.
Right. I wasn't either. Yeah. Yeah.
And and I neurologists kind of, from my experiences, my own personal experience, neurologists kind of go off of what they can see.
Hmm.
And
more of what and with
me, what
mine was more. I
I
had the seizures severe. I was having 90 seizures.
had to
Whoa.
Yeah, because I tried quitting doing trying to do hypnosis
get to
Texas. All of a sudden, when you start,
start.
you
Yeah.
do this, and when I had to quit doing drugs, what happened was it would cause my body to go either brain chemistry or something go so haywire that it would cause me to go so bad seizures. So I was then physically addicted to the drugs.
Yeah. And that happens to a lot of people. It's dealing with, I mentioned meds before. The meds, for anxiety and that kind of thing, critically important for some people. Listen to your doctor. I'm not a doctor. Don't, get your doctor's blessings before changing anything. But the way I look at the meds is it's kind of like changing the type of gas that's in your car. Your engine will run differently, but if you've got engine issues, it's not you're not going to fix them just by changing the gas. Again, critically important for some people. Some of us got to chill out before we can start to deal with the issues. But I don't see it as, a cure. You know what I
I don't
mean?
either.
You've got to fix the mental processes that are causing whatever it is that you're dealing with. And again, most of those, by your 30th birthday, up to 95% of those are going to be subconscious. And again, that's why I do the work that I do. It's, going in and rewriting those programs at the root.
I think that's the most important part is the rewriting of the programs are not happening. And
Right.
I'm just now actually after 10 years of going the medication route and,
Hmm.
doing my own personal things, but it took me a long time to get, like, I hit a certain point and then I just kind of skyrocketed. I just started like really taking off my brain, especially getting off the drugs. Of course, that's going to help the brain, you know, like
Yeah.
I was only injuring my brain as it was trying to heal, you
Yes.
know, and but then there was the PTSD that was not being addressed. I went to psychologist. I sat in a room with somebody for 15 minutes and he wanted to just tell me, well, you have bipolar, and didn't want to address the fact that, yeah, I was going through depression because I had just lost my abilities to do anything
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to drive. I wasn't able to be by myself. I wasn't able to handle, the anger blow ups. I wasn't able to control my own emotions. I wasn't able to handle going out into the daylight. I wasn't able to handle going into the stores. I still have extreme sensitivity to light. Like, I
Mm.
still, like, if I tried going into Harbor Freight the other day to get my husband a birthday present, and I had to leave because the lights were so much. And what
Yeah.
happens with me, it's not, I'll put on sunglasses and I'll wear a hat, but
Yeah.
I can feel it penetrating through my skin.
Yes. Yes. I
You
know what you
feel it.
mean.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like the glasses and the hat. Okay, it helps for me. I'll even put a hoodie on, but I can feel it penetrating through my clothes and through
Uh-huh.
my skin, and it starts to make my body go into that flight or fight mode. And,
Hmm.
before I didn't recognize what the flight or flight mode was or what my body was
Right.
doing and how it was going into that, every time. And a lot of the thing was a lot of my seizures were happening because I was going into the flight or flight mode and not recognizing it. It
Right.
was a really long journey, but yeah, I have to say, after 10 years, I am no longer on any medications. I'm
Nice.
yet like I'm 3 months now without any
Yeah.
medications, no pharmaceuticals, no nothing. I do use I use cannabis for my own because it does help with the seizures,
Hmm.
but I'm really interested in the energy healing
Hmm.
because I
Yeah.
know I've done research on energy healing. I believe in it so much. I've even done it myself in my younger years, you
Hmm.
know. But did you check into the red light therapy?
I tried it once. I didn't. I kind of had that penetrating feeling like you talked
Yeah, that's
about.
what I went through.
I was so sensitive at the time, and so many things that were supposed to like help me, were like too much for me at the time. But I might try it out again. That's a good point. Yeah, I just, like I said, every brain injury is unique. Just go with what works. You know what I mean? Listen to your doctor, try out everything they tell you, talk to them before getting off of it, all that kind of stuff. But your brain, your body are the ultimate judge. It knows, is this a good feeling or a bad feeling? If it's a bad feeling, then you need to stop putting that. Talk to your doctor first, obviously, but uh,
Always
you
talk to
know,
your doctor first.
yeah.
Yeah. My own personal experience, I stopped listening to the doctors about something.
I've been there, yeah.
Um, I,
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is my own personal, we're talking about our own personal journeys here.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I stopped taking medications, even though they were like, no, you need to continue. And I was like, no, they're not helping. They're making me worse. And I stopped. I was on 11 different medications at one point in time. Like
17 pills a night. My kids like to count them for me.
yeah,
Yes.
I was literally like an 80-year-old woman that had
Uh-huh.
all like COPD. I had more medications than
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
And there were so many of them were the psychiatric medications, I got I had suicide ideologies. I tried committing suicide, I don't know how many times. I would
Wow.
go into those blackouts and I would literally just try committing suicide. Like,
Wow.
and my psychologist wouldn't listen to me on the fact that there was no thought process behind it. It just
Oh,
happened.
oh, that's the 95% behind the wheel there. If there's no
Yeah,
thought process behind it, that's a program. That okay. You you probably won't change that, consciously.
yeah,
You need the right subconscious tools. You can do it. It's kind of like, people ask me, do affirmations work? Things like that. Yes, they do. In my opinion, it's kind of like digging a ditch with a spoon. You can do it, but you're going to be there a while. You know what I mean? But, for, anything that's like, um, anything that's like an automatic habit like that you don't consciously think about, that again, by definition, it's outside your conscious awareness. That's when you need the right tools to go in. It's programmed just like a computer. It does not think. It only computes. It runs whatever programs are in there. You picked up the vast majority of those between the ages of 0 to 7. That's called the imprinting phase for a human being. Your brain was taking on huge amounts of information in, but we hadn't developed what's called a critical faculty yet, which means we couldn't judge anything that was coming in. So we just accepted it all. This is how life is. This is how people are. This is who I am. A lot of kids in that situation will take on responsibility for things that they have no control over. Classic example of that are, mom and dad are fighting. I must have done something wrong. You know what I mean? That we internalize it all, and we get these negative beliefs about ourselves in that age. The really ironic thing is, as adults, we take responsibility for nothing, but that's when we have the most control. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But yeah, it's really about you've got to have the right tools to go in and get those things where they live. I watched my dad. My dad smoked a pack a day for over 30 years, and I saw him trying over and over again to quit. Pills, patches, gums, you name it. Failed every single time until he got hypnotized. That was my intro to hypnosis. I was probably 8 years old, and he told me after one hypnosis session he never even craved cigarettes again. Why was that? It's because the hypnosis targeted those programs where they lived. Right? That's all you got to
It's
do.
amazing to think that something can actually work that fast on
Yeah.
something because I was a cigarette smoker for many years, and I know the
Hmm.
struggle of trying to
To
quit,
quit,
trying to
Yeah.
quit, trying to quit. Was finally successful, but I do
Hmm.
understand also with
the
with my chemical
chemical
dependencies.
dependencies.
You
Yes.
know,
It was
trying to quit,
try,
trying to
try,
quit,
quit,
trying to
try,
quit,
quit,
trying
try,
to quit.
Hmm.
and
It's that programming, and you know, I don't know how I was able to do it. It was
just
just
fear choice. It was just sheer,
Hmm.
like when you said when sitting in that dark room, I was like, I will not be here for forever.
Yeah.
I refuse. But when you're fighting the healing of the brain with the limited amount of knowledge that is circulated, you
Hmm.
know, it's really, really hard because your brain literally forgets how to function. That is what a concussion is
Yes.
your brain forgets the simplest of functioning.
It's like crashing your car, and hit it hard enough, the engine won't run anymore. You know what I
yes,
mean? And it's so weird. I have, when I get stressed, I have what's called aphasia, which means I can think, but the words won't come out. And they told me if I'd hit like a quarter inch to the left, I think it was, I wouldn't have been able to talk. And
wow, wow,
it, it's scary when you get in there and when you're experiencing this stuff, but your brain is incredibly resilient. It can relearn to do things, as long as you have to push it to. Stroke victims and things like that. They're now finally getting, Richard Bandler, one of the co-founders of NLP, was a pioneer in this stuff. You get a stroke victim, you got to get them to say their vowels and do it in a really exaggerated way. A, E, I, O. That's getting the face muscles to work again. If the face muscles go offline for a while, that's when you get half the face drooping or whatnot. If they go offline, those nerve endings will die off, and you get the droopy face. But if you do that soon enough, you have a chance at preserving that. But things like that, it's you really, and this is not always fun, but you really have to be able to push your brain to make those new connections and all that. one of the best things that I have done for myself for my healing was lifting weights, and really taxing. I actually passed out after the first time that I did it. So don't be an idiot like I was and go in hardcore. I'd done a lot of it in my younger years, but it what it does is saw a number of studies on this. It encourages new cells to form and new neural connections to wire. And for whatever reason, it's chemical or neurological. It really encourages those the brain to recreate itself, basically. But that's all in the document and all that. But yeah, it's you again, you either find the way or you make the way. You know what I mean? I hope that I can help people do the former because it's way easier than the latter. But if you have, this goes for any kind of condition. If there is not a path and you're not happy with what your doctors tell you your prognosis is, then you just got to go out and make your own path. You mentioned the energy healing before. Again, I was a skeptic. I'm a nerd. I don't understand how it works. I just know that it does. I know that the human body runs on electricity. When the electricity stops running through your body is when you take a dirt nap. But anything that generates electricity.
Sorry, the way you put that.
Okay, sorry.
No, we love it.
I love that.
We have dark humor, so we love it.
Okay, all right. I knew I liked you guys.
We literally have a warning on our thing saying "warning, dark humor."
Okay.
Yeah.
You got the warning label, explicit lyrics. Okay.
But
But
the way you put that was just, I've never heard that term
I thought it was
before,
cool.
but that's awesome.
Okay. I'm glad you like it. But anything that generates electricity is going to generate an electrical field. And I saw a study a year or two ago where it talked about they took these microcurrents, they called them, of electricity, and ran them through wounds, and it healed up much faster. So that may or may not explain it for the scientific people out there. I really don't know how it works. I just know that it does. Like I said, I was in stunt pilot mode.
Experience.
Yeah. What helped me, I kept, and what didn't help me, I discarded, and I encourage doing the same.
Well, it depends. I very much see that, like, if you're stepping into nature, because that's part of the
Yes.
energy healing. You're stepping
Yes.
into nature. It has its own level of energy, and you're putting yourself in that, and like you surround yourself with trees, you're gonna feel it. And
Yes.
like we have this. I know that I think it's in Oregon. You have this place called the Vortex, and it's literally things are leaning, but you're standing straight up, and it's because it's an energy pool, and so I think that has a lot to do with it in
Yes.
in the healing process and a better understanding, because we are energy. We are made up of energies. Like you
Yes.
said, that electricity stops working. We're taking a dirt nap.
Yeah.
So it's just like with trees. They start, they start dying off. They're losing their energy. They're losing their electricity.
Their life force.
So
Yeah.
it very much is it's just a circulation of life.
Absolutely. And we all have felt the feeling of, rejuvenation when we go to the ocean or the forest or whatever our happy place is. Yeah. And that has a lot to do with, I think, energy. Not sure if you're familiar with Master Ko. He's the guy I learned pranic healing from. But he talks about if you're in the middle of New York City, the human biofield has been measured out to about 8 feet. It's actually 12, but we haven't been able to measure it out that far yet. I can tell you the reasoning behind that. But our energy extends around us. And we've all had that experience of, a negative person walks in the room and it's like, ugh, you can feel it before they even say anything, right? Contrast that with being out in the middle of the woods just by yourself. There's no energy around except for trees. You know what I mean? That's it's a very light type of an energy. Same thing with ocean, very cleansing. You know what I mean? I don't know how it works, but I just know it does.
So I'm a person on energy
and it's frequencies, vibrations
stuff like that.
Hmm.
I believe that the frequencies and the vibrations that the planet and the plants and nature give
give
out
out.
is healing in itself.
Hmm. I agree with that. Yeah, yeah. And that's, you and me are super sensitive to that kind of thing now. That's our superpower. And so I drive my wife nuts because I've got to have the room a certain way. I'm so sensitive to light and sound. I heard we had we live in an older house and we had a plumbing leak behind the wall. I heard it because I could hear the water dripping out of it. And the plumber comes, opens the wall. How in the world did you hear that? It's because of the injury. I'm so sensitive to that stuff. Yeah, but it's, I'm
I
taking
will
my
tell you that prior to hitting my head, after hitting my head was a whole new world of level
yeah.
for me. Like this, what I'm holding right now is to for the EMFs that I'm getting from my computer.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, I had a weird. I don't know any of this stuff. All right, my wife is all into the crystals and all that kind of stuff.
That
Um,
Yep.
me too.
she told me, all right, put these crystals, keep these for the EMFs or whatnot. I put them in front of my monitor. I could literally feel the difference right then.
Yeah.
It just, I
This
have no idea how it works, but it does. So I kept it. Yeah.
this my mom and my stepdad got me.
Uh huh.
It's got like 127 different crystals and metal flakes,
Oh
different types
wow.
of metals, along with this little screw that kind of go in there, and
Hmm.
it does help when I start getting those pins and needles or the I call it it's a cloudiness. It's I'm unable to
Yes.
think
Brain
clearly.
fog.
Like
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
creates that brain fog. And before, when I was on medication, the medications, they served their purpose for their time that they were needed.
Yes.
But when my body adjusted to not needing them, they were bad.
Hmm.
It was not a good thing, and it was kind of it took a minute for all of us to find out that I had to go find a whole new neurologist, and
Yeah.
all the different steps that you have to take, go through the EEG and all that
Yeah.
all over
Yeah.
again. And my neurologist told me, she said, I will not rule out epilepsy 100%. She goes, because I can't measure all of the brain's activity.
Right.
She goes, she goes, I just cannot. She goes, but you do have the non-epileptic seizures for what I've been able to capture. But there is one type of seizure that I do have that it only happens when we're in the vehicle and I'm going up and down elevations. I can't handle
Oh.
elevation change.
Okay.
We call those my
Interesting.
jumpies. I just go off into wherever and then I come back and talk about my boobs wrestling. Like literally, this stuff I come
We
back and
didn't even drive far. We went literally into town because we live in a little rural area. And we went into town to the store, and I went inside. She sat in the car because of the lights. And I come out, and she's just staring down. And I'm like, Ma, are you okay? She's just like, uh huh. She goes, this one's trying to fight this one. I'm just like, what? Like, it's hard to sit there and be serious because it's like she goes into at the beginning she went to a very childish like state of mind, and and so that's what you take, and it's hard to see an adult, a grown adult with kids be in that kind of state of mind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't ever take serious situations serious. I'm not raised
dark
that
humor.
way. It's that dark humor that hits.
That's a good thing. Yeah. You stress a lot less. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta laugh about it, but I'm still trying to be like cautious and everything. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, you need to take your med, because she had this emergency medicine she would have to take to help her, come back. But back when she started having the seizures, we would have to sing "Cat in the Hat" Rainbow Song.
Interesting. Okay.
And yeah, that was something that we had to do with her, and it would pull her out. And she'll start singing it with us, and she'll
Huh.
start doing like the little parts of the song that is has like thing one and thing two singing with it. And but and that's something that I don't think we ever will figure out. I think maybe it's the PTSD that has a play with it.
I think so. I think the
um
PTSD had a play in it because that reason it would carry me out is because it would take me out of that flight or flight
I could
mode
see that. Yeah, yeah.
because I would
What
laugh and giggle when with me one of the things to bring me out of the after seizure thing is laughter. It's one of the things that brings me
do you
out.
remember what happens? What happened after you come out of it? Do you remember being in it? What happened?
I can hear.
Yeah, she can hear. She just and there's
I just
certain
can't
things.
respond. But like
Okay,
not all the
okay.
time. Sometimes the ones in the vehicle, what we call them my jumpies,
Hmm.
um, those are more absent, uh, pre-mall type seizures, and um, and with those, I get really tired. And to me, I think I'm just tired, but it's actually those are actually auras, the yawning and the tiredness.
Yeah.
And
And
to
to
me,
me,
I
I
just
just
fall
fall
asleep
asleep,
and I just stare awake.
but
But
it's
they're like,
no,
no,
you
your
your
eyes
eyes
have
have
been
been
open
open
this
this
entire.
entire.
But
Yeah.
when I come
And
out, I'll
I
talk
talk
about
about
how I
how I
was
was
dreaming
dreaming
about
about
rainbows
rainbows
and
and
refrigerators
refrigerators
chasing
chasing
a
a
dog,
dog, or
like there's
there's
just
just
some
some
kind of
kind of
crazy
crazy
stuff
stuff
that
that
happens
happens
in
in
there.
there.
But
Wow.
it just goes
Interesting.
to
To
show
show
you
the
how
how
different brains
brains
each brain
can
can be and the
and
different
different
things.
things.
You know, you
You
never
never
know what
know
might
when
bring
you
a
bring a
person
person
out of
out
a
of the
seizure. You
seizure. You
never know
never
what
know.
might actually help. You know, curiosity, keeping curiosity is so important when
When
you're
you're
dealing with
doing
these.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what helped me, get through mine. That's the reason I light up talking about this stuff is because it fascinates me. You know what I mean? And that's what it takes. I'm not saying this is what's going on, but I don't diagnose it all, by the way. But there is a branch of psychology called internal family systems where it talks about parts. In NLP, we have an exercise we do around parts integration. What a part is when, especially when you're young and you have something, really, severely emotional happen to you.
Goes through
There's a
quite a bit.
part of your Okay, there's a part of your psyche which, if you've seen the movie Ghostbusters, when they put out the little trap and it, kind of gets, it's a lot like that. It kind of like breaks off, and it a very noble thing to do. It's actually shielding the rest of the psyche from that, from dealing with that,
Yeah,
and
it's a
so
protection mode.
definitely taking one for the team. But there's, yeah, Richard Schwartz wrote, it's called Family Systems, I think is the name of the book, but really fascinating stuff around the parts and all that. It's that's the closest analogy I could make to that. But yeah, I have no idea why the Cat in the Hat works. That's a
It
crazy
was well,
story.
we watched it as when my sister was younger. It was
I'm
something we
sorry, you're
watched.
breaking up.
I think you need a mic.
No, my mic is fine. I think it's just the internet.
Oh, yeah, our internet mic has been messing up today.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, better.
Yeah. So when my sister was younger, we would watch the show, and that's
Okay,
kind of like when we bonded. That was our bonding time. So I think that might have been. It was just a happy place where us
yeah.
three girls and in our happy place. I think that might have been what it really resorted to, and that's why she sung it because she loves her kid shows.
I love my cartoons.
That's cool.
I am really curious though, and you don't have to answer this, but did your brain injury affect your family?
Yeah, that is a really long answer. My kids were still pretty young. They were like, this was 10 years ago, so they'd have been like 6 and 8. And that was really tough. I could hear them playing outside, but it's like I couldn't be,
Couldn't go
part
near
of their
them.
world. They would come visit dad, in his dungeon, but, it was really hard because, my wife finally started, taking them on vacations and things like that. I was not able to go on. And it it's tough. You're no longer, men, we have our identity wrapped up in, how we can provide, protect, and all that stuff. And I really had a lot of like identity breakdown in that time. You know what I mean? I'd seen my dad go through it. He got in a bad accident, when I was 8 years old, and he wasn't able to work after that. His body was just thrashed, and I saw him go down that process, so I was at least able to recognize what was happening, and that helped me a lot. But that piecing back together that identity part of it is really the that was the hardest part for me. I actually, once I, had gotten, through the NLP and hypnosis training and all that, and had, healed myself, I actually wrote a course that it's all about identity shifting. I call it Success Identity Blueprint, where we go through, a framework of, clear your crap, and then, start your engines, get your motor
Become
revving,
your
and then
authentic
where you
you
want to
without all
go.
the crap.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And with if you think of it, it's like driving a boat. You try to drive a boat with the anchor still deployed, the faster you go, the more drag it's going to produce, right? Human beings are the same way. That anchor is our, negative emotions, limiting beliefs, things like that. Until you cut those off, they're just going to be dragging on you. Again, the faster you go, the more drag they're going to produce. So that's always step one.
I just was really curious because, I know from a different perspective, I was 16 when she hit her head, and
17.
17, whatever. I was a teenager.
She
and
probably remembers better than you do, Mom, but go ahead.
You're probably 100%
thank,
correct on
thank
that.
you. Thank you. I love the call out there.
Yeah, me too.
But I was the oldest, and all the other kids were very much younger, and a
Hmm.
lot of
Down to the age of 2.
yeah, down to the age of
Yeah.
two, and
Wow.
yes,
That really I think that it affected that relationship so much because he was at such a critical young age,
Yeah.
and him and I were best friends. Like, we did everything together. And
Yeah.
this was my stepson at the time. Now I adopted him, but we did everything together. So I was one, that safety that he had found. And then when I hit my head, I couldn't be that anymore. And then when I had the screaming and go back into like the almost the Vietnam vet type black, back
Yeah.
spot, or whatever they're called. Can't think of the word right now. But when I would go back into those, he's seen a lot of that. It wasn't, you can't hide that from the
Right.
kids, you
Yeah.
know. And I think the fortunate thing for us is that we were able to recognize that it wasn't me from the very beginning, and we were able to explain it off as those were my angry seizures. That's what we called them, is my angry seizures. And I think that's the only thing that actually helped shield my kids from being severely damaged by it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what you can do for them though? You can be an example. Because I went through a similar thing. When my dad, got in that accident, I watched him kind of spiral down. You know what I mean? And I knew, day one sitting in that dungeon, I knew that I could not allow negative thoughts in my head. I had to stay positive, and that was the only shot that I had. And because of his example, I was able to get myself out of there. And I hope not, but there's a chance that my kids are going to go through their own dark night of the soul. You know what I mean? And I really wanted to be a model of what to do and how to approach it for them. And you can, you know, I don't know if he has memories of that time or whatnot, but you can be like a really really positive example to him of just not giving up, doing what it is you got to do to get through. Sometimes it's just put one foot in front of the other, but
I
yeah,
think I think I've done that pretty well so
I think
far.
so too.
I don't know how to give up. I'm literally, I see an issue and I'm right on
I think
it.
in the worst point of it, it was really she didn't have the mindset to be able to be positive. It was
Hmm.
because she was just down. She was in bed. She
Yeah.
couldn't be.
Identity just the same. I wrap my identity in how good of a mom I
Yeah.
all the different activities I was involved with, those were, and I lost my identity and all of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
just hit like the way they did.
And
Yeah.
she very much beat herself up over it because I took on the role of being mom in the house,
You
and
had to. Yeah.
cooking, cleaning, and going to school, and that, I think she beat herself up even more over that because she's like, here's my 18-year-old daughter taking care of everything, and
Yeah.
I never placed blame on that.
Right. She had no choice. Yeah.
Exactly.
She did the best she could with what she had. She had a broken brain. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The
Yeah, a
one
lot.
thing that actually requires our brain, or our body, the one requirement, one of the main requirements for everything to happen was totally broken.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you don't have your brain, you got nothing. Yeah, absolutely. I've been there. It's A lot of people struggle with that. It's when an injury is invisible like that, people you look fine, and they don't really get what's going on, behind the scenes. It's kind of like a car trying to drive itself. You know what I mean? It's going to crash in a ditch. For me, I was lucky. Like I mentioned, I was familiar with Tony and all that. Knew a little bit of NLP, and I was sitting in that dark dungeon, and uh, totally blacked out. I couldn't even look at my computer or my phone, and it was just too painful. And it's just me in the dark with nothing but my thoughts. In prison, they call this solitary confinement. But I was able to actually keep myself on a natural high while I was in there. Just a couple of simple NLP tricks. Number one, years ago, Berkeley did a study where they took manic depressive people. These were, they were maxed out on their meds and they were still depressed. They had them all do one thing: stare in the mirror 30 minutes a day and grin so big they could eat a banana sideways, right? At the end of that study, not only did they all of them report not being depressed, a lot of them were able to actually get off their meds. Get your doctor's permission before doing that. But how did
That is
that
so
one simple practice
huge.
do something so huge like that? It's your brain and your body are in what's called a cybernetic loop, and all that means is one controls the other. So if I told you I had a depressed friend, you could probably tell me a lot about that person ahead of time, right? Not even seeing them. Would their head be up or down, right? Shoulders back and tight, or would they be drooped forward, right? Would they
Yeah.
be breathing, deep like they're excited, or shallow, right? We all know this because we've all done it, right? What most people don't know is you can do the opposite. You can put yourself in a state of excitement or power, or whatever. And when you put your body in that state physically, head up, shoulders back, you actually create those emotions. Emotions created by motion. There was a researcher named Amy Cuddy who did she's got a really good YouTube TED Talk. But she did the study on things called power poses. And you think about any athlete, any sport on earth, every culture, when they all get that big victory, what pose do they all hit? V is for victory, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
People who have been blind since birth will hit that pose when they get a big victory. It is hardwired into our nervous system. Another one is called the Wonder Woman pose. That's head up, shoulders back, put your hands on your hip and flare your elbows out. Stand, pose like Wonder Woman did, right? Google her for the younger people who don't remember Wonder Woman. But it's, but she found that just by holding either one of those poses for 2 minutes caused a 25% increase in testosterone, which for men and women is the hormone of confidence and dominance, and a 25% decrease in cortisol, which is the stress hormone, just by holding a pose for 2 minutes. Your mind and your body are in that cybernetic loop, and so you just want to take control of that process. Now, sitting there in that dungeon, I didn't have much else to do, so I just held those power poses. I grinned at myself in the mirror. Google mirror neurons if you want to know why that. You see a person smiling at you, it automatically lights you up, right?
Yeah.
That's why they did it in the mirror. But by doing that, I was able to keep myself on a natural high. My wife thought I was nuts or on something, but
You know, I'd rather
it,
be
it, it
I'd rather be
works.
crazy and doing the things that actually kept me from going into that dark, deep hole that I went into,
Uh-huh.
because I went a completely different route. So, like if I didn't know any of these things, and I don't even know if I did know them, I probably wouldn't have been able to recall them at the point in time.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But lucky for you, your daughter's here, so she'll remember. So, hey,
yeah,
head up, shoulders back. Wonder Woman pose.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
But that is the reason I'm doing what I do. I had to find the the ways to overcome all of it. And it's not just the medical, it's the psychological and, you know, the emotional and all that. It's, you know, there's so little information about, you know, really dealing with the person. Our medical study, again, I'm beyond grateful to my doctors, but our medical study does not treat the medical system does not treat the whole person. It's, you know, oh, you got this symptom or this cluster of symptoms. All right, here's a pill for it. You know what I mean? And we really need to expand what we think of as treatment for things like this, because what we're doing ain't working.
Agreed.
Completely.
If they, so yeah, I know you said that if they wanted a copy of that 3-page, if our listeners, they could email you. What's that email?
Yeah, it's Matt at Matt Johnson, MattJohnson, and the letters NLP for neuro linguistic programming. So Matt at mattjohnsonnlp.com. And it's just a Google Drive. I'll send you a link back, and you'll have access to the document and the video where I presented it.
And do you have like a website or anything else like that, or is
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It's that same URL, Matt Johnson NLP, MattJohnsson NLP.com, and that's got links to all my programs and everything.
Okay, and I'll definitely take your website and I will put it in the description for our viewers, because some people are listening and driving, and so. But Matt, thank you. Honestly, seeing the similar, like, even though you both had different brain injuries, there was still a lot of similarities there, and
Yeah.
that, you know, I think that helps a lot of people, not just, you know, for those on the outside and those who are dealing with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes just hearing the story and knowing that, you know, there's someone else who understands me, you know what I mean, who gets it. That's, you know, if you don't have that
Especially
in
the
your,
light thing.
yeah, absolutely. And, you know, sharing therapies, this worked for me, this didn't, you know what I mean? But if you don't have that in your immediate area, if you're in a small town or whatnot, we've got this wonderful thing called the internet, and you can find people on there who get it. And, you know, that is a huge, huge help.
And for our viewers, of course, we want everybody to go like and follow us on Facebook. You know,
Of course, because we're special.
Absolutely.
I post all the shorts. I post little things on there. It comes with all kinds of things on there. And then I also want, of course, we have our TikTok, which is looking through the glass. The drive-through is the through. And of course, for anybody who ever wants to be on our show, or needs to reach out or wants to share their story or come on and just talk about anything, whatever, it's 12 looking through drive through 34theglass@gmail.com. So anybody's more than welcome to join in and talk to us, and, you know, or they just are looking for help, we can always patch you through the right people as well. And Matt, thank you for coming on and sharing all that information. And
I think our listeners, I know I have benefited tremendously from this and appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me.
This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.